Hey guys, it's Jan, also known as Zen Bluster, and today we're going to be building a beginner style MA chassis car. And just to let you guys know, in the coming weeks, I'm also going to be working on a beginner style AR chassis car and an FMA chassis beginner style car as well. So, in the hobby right now, basically, if you're willing to start, and the hobby is going to allow you to jump in on a category called the tune class over here in California. It's fairly common, and this is going to be a tuned class legal car. So basically, the way that it works is that you're limited to tuned motors like torque tuned, atomic tuned, and the rev tuned. And there are other tuned motors like the Zen tuned, which does not qualify because it's way too powerful. So this car is going to be built on the foundation of minimizing the amount of tools that you need to be able to build a car. So like no cutting is allowed too much, and then basically the only one of the few things that you're allowed is maybe like piercing your wheels, and that's what I'm going to do. If you don't have a wheel piercer, that's okay. Just use your 60 millimeter hollow propeller shafts, no, hollow drive shafts, sorry, instead of these 72s that I'm showing here. And we're gonna go ahead and go through the parts, and I'll tell you why. Basically, it'll become clearer through the build. And first things first is the mini four-wheel drive Kumamon version. I'm gonna be building off of this thing because it already comes with a Torque Tune 2 motor right there, as you can see. And there's a couple of other things. It already has a 3.5 to 1 gear ratio mostly, and I'm picking this because it already has the red B parts, and that makes the rest of the build a little bit more color coordinated at least. Next, let me get that out of the way. We're gonna go through the transmission parts first. This is item number 15297. This is actually quite an old piece. But the item number is still the same. You should be able to find these two. If you don't have a wheel piercer, it's okay to use the 60 millimeter hollow stainless steel shafts. So those are okay to get. Those are for the wheels. This is for the transmission. The 15347 MS and MA chassis gear set. Basically, it's not listed here, but you can see it that it's compatible with MA as well. The AO 1011 620s, item number 94389, two sets. Now you're going to use them for your axles, basically for this right here. Your tires, we're going to go convert to super hards. The tires that come with a kit of the Kumamon are not actually super hard, they're just regular tires, so we're going to go use these ones. These have a little bit less bounce. Next is the carbon reinforced wheel set. We're going to be using this one specifically. I just like the extra offset some of the other wheels have, like this one. This one's a little bit wider offset, so I like that. Item number 95245. That's mostly for the transmission and wheels. Slide this over. We're gonna talk about the rollers. 95231 double aluminum. It doesn't have to be black. It doesn't have to be this exact double aluminum rollers. You can use the one that has the rubbering if you want to. That actually helps you a little bit, but this is what I have on me right now, and I've already used most of my 13 and 12 double aluminum rollers. This set is going to be for the front. And these ones, we're going to be using 95385. The 90 millimeter rollers that I spoke of in my last video. These are really good, so get these while you can. And if you want to see that video, it'll be up on the right hand corner right now. And this one specifically, it's not quite obvious. Item number 15399, we're going to be using this not as a brake set but as a stabilizer. This piece right here is a very good combination for the 13 and 12 double aluminum rollers. You could use these as stabilizers, and they work very well. You're gonna need two sets of the cap screws. Basically, you're going to need 30 millimeters in the front and 30 millimeters in the back, and each set only contains a pair, so you need to buy two. And the good thing about this set is it also includes lock nuts as well, the steel lock nuts, and those are very handy. Basically, if you don't want anything to shake out of place or just want to keep everything down, that helps a lot. And then the next few pieces is the mass damper set with the ball connector. I'm still trying to figure out whether or not I want to just mount this directly or actually have this, actuate, bounce, not just in place, but actually work as a hammer on the back. That's probably the best way to mount this. And this set, the side mass damper set for AR, also works for MA chassis. That should be listed over there. The 15459. Those are the dampers that you're gonna need. And then the brake set over here, 95029 for AR, should also work with MA. And this is the brakes that we're going to be using for the back. The underguard, I don't have an orange set, so we're going to be using the red ones, 95287, just as a front underguard. And this will be working with, if I recall correctly, this should fit. And we're going to go see it on the video as I build it. This is what I'm going to use for the front in combination with this underguard. It's going to be under the bumper. Item number 15394, FRP, multi-roller setting stay. And the last two pieces are going to be the most expensive ones, other than the bearings and some of the cap screws. Basically, these are the carbon pieces, 95104 front multi-roller setting stay. That's what we're going to use for the 13 millimeter rollers at the front. And this is going to be mounted at the back, 95257, and I'm going to tell you guys why the 19 millimeter position of this particular piece is actually wider than normal compared to other pieces like the popsicles. So I'm actually gonna show you that at the portion of the video where I'm building this part. So this will make more sense once I've actually shown you how much wider this is than a normal 19 millimeter mount, like this spot and that spot over there. Alright, those are the parts, guys, and we're gonna go ahead and start building. Let me just move the camera. Okay, guys, so first things first, before we actually get started on cutting into the model kit, basically start building the model kit, we're gonna go work on the bearings so that like they start soaking, they start cleaning themselves before we even need to. I already have, remember the last video, I've already started opening some of my kits, some of the parts, the 90 millimeter orange plastic ring five spoke rollers. I've already opened those up. I'm gonna use those instead of these ones because I want to collect these two. So we're just gonna go ahead and use those ones from the demo from last video. We're gonna open this one, the MS bearing set, cut that open, and we need to soak those two. So separate that piece. Always have a little tray with you when you're working on your car. And the same thing with the double aluminum rollers. We need to start working on that, on the bearings that are in there. So, and then the AO 620s. I already have a few that I've already started working on, so we're gonna go use those instead of these ones. And I'm gonna quickly show you how to unseal the AO 620 bearings. I already have a video that explains how to do that, and if you're interested in knowing how to do that in a more in-depth fashion, go click the video on the upper right corner. That's gonna show you exactly how to do it, but I'm gonna quickly show you how to do it. What you need is a knife, basically an X-Acto knife. Try to come in from the center of the bearing, but don't go too deep. That should help you push out the O-ring. You see that, so how easy that comes out, and that's it. Fairly easy. And there you have it. That's an unsealed AO620. We're gonna go ahead and use those. I've already unsealed 3 of them. And there you go, shake it up, basically. And I'm gonna shake this one up. We'll set those aside and worry about those later. And now I'd like to work on the transmission first, so we're gonna go open up the Kumamon box. The best part is it already comes with a torque tune 2, and we're going to probably in a future video, if you guys are really interested in me teaching you how to break in motors, I might do it. I mean, it's been one of those things that people ask me all the time, hey, how do you break in motors? Well, what I keep on telling people is that mostly it's not the motor, it's your transmission, and it's how well you make the transmission perform. That's the biggest determining factor on how smooth or how fast your car might perform. Basically, that's the biggest determining factor. We'll set this torque tune motor aside. I'll show you guys how to do a break-in. It depends on the motor actually. Although most of the time, if I build it the same way, it works fairly well. So we're gonna need the chassis itself. We need just the motor, the chassis, the terminals, and the gears. We are also not gonna use the grease. We're gonna be using Tamiya VG oil. If you're not familiar with that, I'll show you later. It's not as important right now. So terminals and then the gears. The best part with the MA chassis cars is that they already come with the gears that are fairly good in terms of balance. The body you don't need, because we're going to be using polycarbonate body. And actually, it's really up to you what body that you use. So for the MA chassis, what I like to do is when I press the pinion gear for the front, I like to make the front a little bit flush, you know, not too far deep in, not too far out. And for the back, for the rear of the motor where the end bell is, what I like to do is I like to have the pinion gear protrude a little bit. I mean, not the pinion gear, but the shaft. So I'm gonna push this in. All right, we're gonna get some. Let me see, some tissue. All right, we're gonna fold up some tissue, and we're gonna press the pinion gear in a little bit. All right, what that does is that it allows the pinion gear to sit a little bit deep into the pinion. Basically, the pinion is going to be set a little bit deep into the shaft, and that allows the gear to actually mesh a little bit better on the transmission side. So it's one of the things that I use for my transmission. The reason why I mount the motor first is that it allows you to position the gears a little bit better. So we're gonna pull the shafts basically from this packaging, and then that's gonna help us center the gears to where they're gonna be. The straight shafts help the transmission a little bit better. So we'll take those out, and we'll get the gears that have been soaking in here. Find those shafts again. All right. So there you have that. We're gonna put some VG oil. Okay guys, I had to cut. I was looking for this grease. not grease, but oil. It's called the Tamiya VG oil. Basically, they use these for RC stuff, for gears, and we're gonna use that for this, for the shaft. And it comes with this applicator right there, basically like a fine tipped dropper. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hold the shaft in place first, push it to that side, and then we're gonna drip some oil over here. There you go. Not too much, not too little. Okay. That's basically all that you're gonna need. Alright, we're also gonna apply some VG oil on the gears as well. We're gonna go work on the wheels before we actually work on putting these gears in. Alright, so we'll set these aside for now. And if you do not have the wheel piercer, it's going to be okay, not that big of a deal. It's not a deal breaker. You can just use the 60mm hollow drive shafts, and that's not that big of an issue. So I'll set these aside, and we're gonna use the wheel piercer. Alright, so that is a wheel piercer. We're gonna go look for the right size. These are the different rings that you can use to slot into the wheel piercer. That'll stabilize it, and then you can drill through it. For this wheel piercer, what is recommended to be used is a 2.1mm drill bit. And I'm gonna go work on the wheels. Take these out. This is the pin. I'm gonna show you how this works if you do not have one. Hopefully you can look for one, but from what I know of, Object 324 does not make any more of these, because I think, from what I've been told, they're out of business. 20.6. Right, so the way this works is that you put the wheel up against that, right? That keeps it stable, and the pin keeps it centered. So you push the pin in there, and then you loosen this a little bit. You rotate it, and what this does is that it keeps it in place, and the pin keeps it straight. Right. All right. So now, what you're gonna need is to drill it out. And to drill out the hub, what I'm using is my Proxon, my FBS. What you want to do is make sure that it's straight. So we're going to put that there. Alright, that's basically it. That's all you need. When you take it out, you have a nicely centered wheel, and already pierced easily too. So real quick, you see, that's it. So now that is the full set of the wheels that have been pierced. We're gonna go set aside the wheel piercer because we won't need it anymore. So now that we have these pierced, what we're gonna do is we're going to drive the shafts through them. 72mm hollow stainless steel shafts. Let's see. Okay. And whenever I use these, what I like to do is I like to clean them. Wipe them down first. And these come fairly straight from the pack. I have a tool that allows me to check whether or not they are straight. And those are, let me show you. Half of this hobby is having the tools that you need to be able to do your builds. This is an Animoto shaft tester, basically. It allows you to test whether or not a shaft is straight or really badly bent. I'm going to set this aside. And what I like to do when I clean them is get a little bit of isopropyl alcohol or just any alcohol. You might, if you really, you can even use drinking alcohol like brandy. Although I'm honestly joking about that part. I like to run them through like this, wipe them down, just to make sure that there isn't any debris that could cause the wheels to slip. And as you can see, they're actually a little bit dirty from manufacturing. They're dusty, so I like to separate them after I've cleaned them. Do that. So we're gonna check these. If I'm not happy with one or both of them, I'm gonna open another pack, and whether or not you do that is entirely up to you. Okay. All right. So we're gonna check on whether or not these are straight. Nope. That one is bent. You see how it's stopping, but it comes through every once in a while. You have to keep rotating it. I'm gonna check it from this side now. Okay, so this one's kind of okay. That's passable. That's all right. That's, yeah, it's not the best, but this is okay. So we'll go ahead and use that in the interest of time. And this one feels like it's definitely not as good. Yeah, this one is definitely not as good as the other one. Yeah, the bend is there's a pretty bad bend on this one. Right, so we're not gonna use this one. I'm gonna put that aside, and we're gonna open another pack. I'll check this one. Oh, this one's super straight. All right, we're gonna go use these two. This one I'm going to separate. I'm gonna hold on to in a future build. Maybe I'll use that. All right, take that piece, put this away, and then this piece is gonna help us push those 72 millimeter pieces into the wheels. All right, so try to line up the hex, basically the shape of it, before you even start to hammer. So the way I hold this is I try to put pressure on the support shaft here as you hammer it down from the top. All right. And when you're hammering, try to hammer it as flat as you can as you're pushing the shaft through. That'll help prevent your shaft from bending. All of that work checking whether or not your shaft was straight is for nothing if you bend the shaft while you're installing it. Alright, so it's poking quite a bit over here on that side. That's pretty much what you want. Alright, that's gonna be the wide offset. Now we're going to install it on the narrow offset right here. That's the shafts right now. Okay, cool. Alright, so there's a couple of things that I did not mention. You're probably going to need an additional set of spacers, basically the spacers for the 1312 double aluminum rollers. And let me go get those extra ones now, but we're a little bit short on time, so what we're going to do is we are going to use ones from other packs that I've already opened already, so we'll use that. This was from the other video for the 19mm 5-spoke rollers. So what I like to do is I like to put spacers in between the bearings, between the wheel hub and the shaft. Let's cut the tires out and put them onto the wheels. Now, just as a small recommendation, when you're building and when you're buying, what I want you to do when you're still looking at the package, try to see if you could see the shape of the tire before you buy it. If you're buying it in person, actually tires are better to buy in person. If you're ordering them online, you have the likelihood of getting tires that are not in good shape sometimes. So if you're inspecting them in person, try to look through the package to see what shape the tires are in, whether or not there's like a really bad divot or like a bad protrusion on the tires. And these ones, when I bought them at Dixon, they were pretty good. They were already in good shape, so minimize the amount of work I have to do. I don't want to use that. That's only for plastic, so we'll use these side cutters. Okay, we've cut out the super hard tires. We're gonna go ahead and put them into the wheels. We're gonna do the AO 620s. We're going to put them into the hubs. The reason why I want you guys to use the AO 620 is because the AO 620 has basically one of those parts that where if you buy them and let's say you want to take apart an old car and reuse a part, basically your AO 620 is still going to work as well as basically like a well broken in part. After you've used that old car, if you want to move that AO 620, that AO 620 is still going to perform pretty well, especially after running that car for a while, and that bearing doesn't break as often as the hex hole or the round hole cheap ball bearings that you get for like $2 or $3. Basically, those are not worth your money. They're very likely to break when you use them. And for the transmission, we're gonna pop these in, use those spacers, and the wide offset wheel we are going to put in the back. So alright, now we're gonna get that bearing right there, not that bearing, that gear. We're gonna drive the bearing, I'm gonna drive this into the bearing, right, and try to pull the gear up at the same time. Alright, now that that's threaded through, so basically that bearing right here, right, no, not that bearing but that gear, you see how it slides backwards and forwards a lot. Now instead of leaving it like that, what I want you to do is slide the shaft out again, basically. So basically what I just did was fitting. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put something on this side to keep that gear stabilized without cutting anything. So if I recall correctly. We should have some parts that have the small washer. Alright, we're gonna go look for a part that carries that. Okay, so I'm fairly certain that the underguard has these small washers, but if not, then other Tamiya parts will have them too. So we're gonna open this underguard right now. There you go. This is what I'm talking about, these small washers. Those washers will help us stabilize that pink gear in the right position. So let me take this packaging, open it up, and get some of those washers. I think we are only going to need 2 for the transmission. Alright, so we'll go back to the VG oil. We put the oil here. We drop it around this side. What this does is that it allows us to put the washer in that spot before we slide it in. Alright, there you go. It's sitting in that spot. Now, this is the tricky part. Making sure that that washer does not wander out of place while you're putting the gear in, and then having that gear slide out of position. Okay, so that's in there now. We might need some help. Yeah, it looks like that. Oh, washer staying in. There you go. You see? When you put the washer there, it's going to minimize the travel of this gear. It's going to kind of keep it in place a little bit more. So that's just one of the tricks that I use for working on the transmission. Okay guys, so what we have here, one of the tools that I like to use is it's called the Aero Max Rim Installer. And if you have pierced wheels, this is like one of my favorite tools. This will help you a lot. And that helps prevent that shaft from bending for you. So what I like to do is after I've put the shafts into one of the wheels and it's already like protruding, instead of using this and using that to push the wheel, I like to slide this all the way over and use the pin right here. You see this pin? I use that pin to push the wheel, to push the shaft through the other wheel, and that helps me basically center the position of the shaft. There you go. So these are installed shafts. It's protruding a little bit on this side, but that's totally okay. You can readjust it if you have the a wheel puller as well. All right. So next, we're going to install this side. Now we're going to look at the transmission too to make sure that it doesn't shake out of place as well. Looks like we need to do the same thing on this side as well. You see how the gear shakes out? Okay. The same thing needs to be done here. So that's the transmission. We're going to add a little bit more oil because I think some of the gears are a little bit dry. Definitely you need to break in your gears first, so doing that is always important. Breaking in your gears for sure. Okay. I don't know if you can hear that, but that is pretty smooth. Here I'm holding up to my mic. Okay. Alright, so that's the hardest part, guys. We're now going to continue with the rest of the build. Alright. Alright, so first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to go mount the underguard. Okay guys, so we're going to be using a combination of this FRP multi-roller setting stay with the underguard that I cut out from earlier. So what we're going to use is the smaller pieces, these three pieces, and these ones are more for large diameter wheels. Okay, let's go ahead and cut those out. We're going to mount the FRP underneath these from the bottom side, so that there's a little bit, so that the front underguard is a little bit lower. We're going to make sure that it all fits nicely first without any clearance issues before we actually lock it down. Let me remove these because we could definitely use these for other pieces. So in order to fit it, we're just going to test the position of the underguards first. And we're going to need some longer screws. Let me see if there are longer screws that are tied to some of the other pieces that we could open first. Let's take some of the screws out. The longer screws will help us determine whether or not this is going to fit properly. I'm fairly certain that it does, but there is no reason not to double check. Alright. So, in order to do a check, we're going to use some semi-long screws right here. We're going to go use that one and this one. We're going to mount it this way, and then we're going to center this here just to see if it fits nicely first. So we're going to take some washers. Okay, so that looks like it's not going to have any clearance issues. We're just going to do a quick test on the underguard height. This is a 1mm gauge, basically. That's very good. So it's not touching at all, so we can continue. Okay, so now that those screws are there, what we're going to do is mount the rest of these in the holes that they're going to go through. We are also going to mount the same piece on this side, but we're going to mount the rollers later. So for now, we're just going to use, I'm going to use a 2x8mm screws as often as I can on these ones. I'm going to mount it on that hole and that hole right there. This hole and this hole right there on the corner right here, that one. You can change it up. You don't have to use those two holes, but I'm going to use this one and this one. That's what I prefer to use. Okay. Now we're going to open some more packages because we need some longer screws. Okay guys, so we're going to be using the 2x20mm roll, what do you call it, screws. We didn't find any ones that are a little bit shorter. What you could do is, if you have the means to actually cut them, what we're going to do is we're going to go cut them actually so that they're a little bit shorter, but for now we're going to be using just the 2x20s, and they're going to be fine for our purposes, and hopefully they won't be too long. They should be okay. They're just going to protrude just slightly, actually quite a bit, but it's not going to get in the way of anything. All right, so this is where we're going to be screwing in that position right here. That'll allow us to lock down the rollers from the top side as well using this particular screw as well. All right. Okay. So that allows us to be able to lock the upper what do you call it, bumper here, basically where the rollers are going to be mounted. So what we're going to do is we're going to go do that next.